We are fortunate today to welcome Ian Craig. He is a sports physiologist, a nutritionist, and also the author of the book Wholesome Nutrition. Welcome all the way down from Johannesburg, Ian.
Thanks a lot for having me.
You've got a very nice balance in what you're offering, both from your personal experience as a long distance or a middle distance runner.
Middle distance track runner.
So you've had your injuries and you've struggled with overtraining and the diet to keep you going. So, I mean, it's really valuable to have you here and share from your own experience.
Yeah, I mean, as an athlete, you know so much, but, I was still in my 20s. The learning has really come since then. So I'm able to help other people, and I feel, my practice now is starting to really come together as I've experienced a lot. I've experienced a lot of different health imbalances. So yeah, I wish I could apply my current mind back to when I was an athlete, but you can't. So it's doing the best to help other people in the way that I was trying to empower myself.
So Ian, do you welcome anyone from all walks of life into your practice, or do you mainly focus on pro athletes?
So there's not so many pro athletes. So my bread and butter is general population. And since I've been in Joburg, it's been moving more and more into the chronic health space. Right. So I'm dealing a lot with chronic fatigue and autoimmunity. And we think of that as the disease kind of population, but it's actually people are just overdoing things. They're high achievers. It could be the executives who are overachieving in their work life, and instead of playing golf for the weekend, they're now training for Ironman or Comrades or any of these big events. So I see a lot of that, and see some weight management, which is actually a lot more complex than we think it is, and some just basic sports nutrition, which is fairly basic to me now because I'm getting into these complex health complaints.
And we'll be talking about that a lot today as well.
Yeah.
Great. I think we've got a good understanding of why it's so valuable to have you here and why you've written so many articles for us. Before we delve into this interview and ask all the questions, I just want to ask a little bit about your book, your new book that you've co-authored with your lovely wife, Rachel. Can you tell me what inspired you to write this book?
Yeah, in my practice, I was going through a phase where every second person coming in was doing banting, but a year or two ago, every second person coming in, maybe third or fourth person, was doing raw food vegan diets. So I call this, and we'll go into this with exercise questions, but I call this the land of comrades. It's the extreme challenges, and it's the same with diets, same with food. And people were bouncing from one thing to another, and it's very extreme modalities. And the book is all about educating people in finding their own balance, as opposed to bouncing out to an extreme for a period, finding it doesn't really work for them, coming back to another.
But how would they find their balance if they don't do that?
That's a very good question. I mean, they can certainly try the extremes to see how it feels with them. But ultimately, they need to be finding a balanced approach within nutrition, not demonizing certain food groups. It's an all-inclusive approach. So I've taken an approach of inclusive nutrition as opposed to restrictive nutrition. And I co-authored with Rachel because she's very food focused. I provided the nutritional sort of education. She went into food sourcing and preparation in the recipes because we're in this very, very confused era. And that's been my drive the last few years to try and help start bringing awareness into this space to personalize it for an individual.
So it's an educational book, personalizing it. Obviously, you will be discussing all the different types of diets in the book, and then Rachel comes in giving the recipe, the
Yeah.
take-home practical side.
The practical side of things,
right.
Yeah. So we've got a nice relationship in that regard.
So let's start with all these diets,
Okay.
and I'm just going to mention a few of them, and I'd love to hear your opinion.
Okay.
So the first diet I ever came in contact with was the Weight Watchers diet that my mother was doing when I was a child. Do you believe in weighing your food?
No. There's a certain element. I don't like to totally whack down any diet and say it's a load of rubbish or it's brilliant. There's good stuff you can take from anything, and that's a personal philosophy of mine. So you have to identify what that is for you, which might be something different from your friend or neighbor. Mm-hmm. And identify the stuff that's not so good for you. So Weight Watchers, no, I don't believe in measuring all your food in a chronic way, but it might actually be a decent exercise to do in a short term to try and understand, okay, I mean, how many calories am I consuming? Mm-hmm. What's my carbs and fats and protein amounts? How does that fit into the kind of dietetic norms, mm-hmm. so-called norms? Am I over consuming and am I under consuming? Because the old concept of eating too much makes you put weight on, mm-hmm. there's still some truth to that. Although I believe weight management to be a lot more complex, something I write in the book.
We'll get into that one as well.
So there's an extreme limitation to Weight Watchers, and I think it can certainly lead to addictive behavior because you're so focused on numbers.
Yes.
Right? So numbers are important, but do you think 100 years ago we were focused on numbers?
Sure.
And 100 years ago, did we have the weight problems we have now? No. So it's about quality to me. Quality before quantity.
Right. So this is maybe a tool to open your awareness to moderation and different food groups.
Yeah.
Very nice. So the next question I have for you is on low GI.
Okay.
I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
Okay, so low GI was something we played around with around about the turn of the century because it was quite popular then. There was 1 or 2 books. Now there's like 100 books on it. I used to use the the glycemic index chart with a lot of clients. Mm-hmm. Now I'll give it to the odd person. So somebody who's maybe in the insulin resistance kind of stages or pre-diabetic, I find it quite useful, but there's the limitations that it's one concept of the carbohydrate picture, because when you're looking at a GI chart, it's all carbohydrate based food, so it's looking for the less sugary stuff. So yes, it's a brilliant concept, but if you're over focused on low GI, ironically you can overconsume carbohydrates in balance to the proteins and fats.
It's just very interesting.
And you might not have enough vegetables because they don't tend to be on the GI charts so much because they just are very low. Okay. And also it's been massively over-commercialized. So my favorite example is go and buy an old German or Austrian style sourdough rye bread made of stone ground flour. It weighs like a brick and it is low GI, very low GI. Go and buy from one of the supermarkets a branded low GI bread, that's actually a lot higher GI than this. So it's trying to commercialize, and it's not particularly good quality bread necessarily.